Okay, so someone was saying something. Savvy, do you mean the simulated training or the exercises? Which part are you referring to? I'm sure that other people have similar problems. We can talk about how to deal with that a little more.
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes, I find the exercising. Well, the exercise is not difficult to do, but the instruction is so confusing. I don't know if anybody have the same problem with me.
I'm sure that there are. I know that when I do them, I'm constantly shaking my head at how difficult they make it. Like sometimes it's so many words to just tell you to do something so simple.
Right. That's how I find, and I spend so much time on it.
Okay, and is that just the simulation or is it the other? The exercise?
No, the simulation is fine, but it's just the exercise itself.
The greater projects. Okay, we can look at those. I'll look at them and see if we can try to figure out how to make that easier. But for people that really have a hard time with those things, we can try and figure something else out. I'm wondering if you worked in small groups, you would each have to do your own. But if you worked with a group just to talk through what they're asking you to do to make sure that you understand what they're asking you to do, might help. But failing that, I will look at them and see if I can somehow rewrite them to make them easier, to give you something else to refer to. Let me think on that. And for now, we'll move on and play with our files. But we will come back to that, okay? Maybe I'll figure something out. Okay. Does everybody have the files from Blackboard now? So when you download these, Word W02 data zip, it comes as a zipped file. And I want to put it in my winter 2000 there. And in your file, that folder. So I'm putting it in the correct folder so that when I go back to it to extract all, I don't have to tell it where to go. I can just say extract, and now I have the files outside of the zipped folder. So this folder has no zipper. This one, if we go back up one level, this one does. See the zipper? Used to go down, now it goes across for some reason. I have no idea why. I guess that's a Windows 11 thing. Okay, everybody got the files? And we'll start with the same one. So the photography one, what's it called in here? Let's see. We'll start with Studio. Is it Studio? Where is it? There it is. So we're starting with the same one that they were using, but we don't necessarily have to make it the same as what they did. We do want to make it legible, and we want it to be professional, right? So it's 3 pages right now. We just need to keep track of that. So we can't make it down to 2, so we probably don't care if it gets to as much as 4. And the reason for that is because front and back of paper. So most things you end up wanting to have you're going to use the paper anyway. So if you have to get something down to 2 pages to fit on 1, that's great. If you have to use a third, that means that you have an extra piece of paper that you can use. Okay? There's all kinds of things we could do with this that are not the exact same as what you've already done. Let's start. I am going to look at what they're doing, but we're going to start by being a little more creative than just doing what they do. So we're going to select font options and change text appearance, but we're going to choose whatever font we want. So if you hit Control A, that will select your whole document. Okay. You can apply a font, keeping in mind that it has to be legible. So you can't get too fancy, but Times New Roman or Arial, those are what we use for everything, and they're pretty boring. You can find something else to use. Yours doesn't need to be the same as mine or the same as anybody else's. So pick a legible font that you like. I'm just checking. I don't think I have my dyslexic font anymore. I'll have to download that again. I liked it a lot. So pick a font, any font. I'm going with Georgia Pro, and I'm going to do Control and 5, which makes it 1.5 rows. So if I do Control 1, it'll be single spaced. Control 2, it will be double spaced. Control 5 is 1.5. So Control 5 is what I usually use unless I'm doing something that is academic, you know, like a paper or whatever for your teacher, in which case you have no choice. You have to use everything boring because that's what MLA or APA want, right? Even your cover page gets to be boring. Okay, I need to Diksha, I will get to that a bit later. I'll have a look and see what's going on there. All right, I want to be able to see the chat. So I'm going to try doing a little bit. There we go. All right, everybody got this? You've changed your font to something you like. Let's do our heading. So the title, you could start with a title style if you want. Well, that's boring, isn't it? So if you prefer, instead of that, you can format it however you want. So we could do right click and find the format. Where are we? Down there should be properties or format. We can go here and do font. Okay. We're not worrying about grades in the grade book. I will look at it. I will make sure it gets updated. And if there are problems, we'll talk about that at the end of class. But right now, we are working on a Word document. And I'm asking you to do it and to follow along. So if you are focused on other things instead of this, you're missing everything that we do in the class, right? Let it go. There will be time to discuss it. All right. So what else could we do here? What else did you learn how to do? Aside from making titles or just playing with it, changing the font, we could go in here and use shadows or all caps or whatever, but what else? If you don't like these choices, you could change it to word art. Let's see. That's not bad. But I think I'm gonna look at even more. Okay, I like that one for me, but not necessarily that color. Let's see. No, ick. That's the wrong one. Okay, that's the fill. Quick styles, word art styles, text fill. Maybe if I try here, there we go. Now notice I can change both the inside color and the exterior color. So I'm going to go with this one first. And then my text outline. And basically what I'm doing here is playing until I'm happy. And if I don't get to something I like, I can always throw it out. Go back as far as I want to, right? And start again. So experimenting with something is no problem at all. I want this on another line. And this is going to be italics. And if I want to change it, I can, or not. Okay. For this, we're going to give it bullets, but let's be a little more creative than they were. Let's go look for something more fun. So we have, yeah, that looks like a warning. That won't do. Are there any here that you like? I like define new bullet, picture, Bing image search, and let's see what we can do. How about that one? Now, does that look all right? Not really. It just looks like a black bulb or a black thing of nothing. So I can either keep looking or I can go to symbols and see if I can find something there in. Does anybody know where the most likely thing I would find something I want? I think they mention it in your training there. Wingdings and webdings have all kinds of cool stuff like phones, scissors, there's computer disk, there's an airplane. I can't tell you how many times people have used the airplane when I used to teach the aviation program. It was like they all found the airplane. Okay, not seeing any there that I like. Let's have a look here. The point of this isn't finding a camera. The point is, the more you experiment and play, I think I'm just going to go with that for this one. The point is, the more you experiment and look, the more things you will find that you can work with. Now, what if I want to move this over? And I'm perfectly aware that this isn't going to turn out looking like the one that we did in the book. That's okay. Okay? If we're having MyLab mark something, then we need to do it the way that MyLab tells us. Step at a time, follow the directions, and then go back and read the direction or read the feedback to make sure that we're doing what they want. But we don't have to do that here. We can do whatever we want, right? So all of this, I'm going to apply a heading style. And the nice thing about applying a heading style is even if I don't like the heading style, if I put the same heading style all the way through on the same things, we can change it all at once. So as long as I use heading 2 consistently on things, I can change heading 2.
Is there a way to change the heading style all at once?
I don't think there is, but let's try. If I got juxtaposition, I'm going to try holding Control. I've got those 3. Let's see. I've never ever tried that. Look at that. It works. You're so smart. Thank you.
How did you do that?
Never thought to do it. So select the heading, then hold Control and select the next ones that you can see. You can actually take your finger off while you're scrolling down and get the rest. All I'm doing is holding Control because Control lets you select things that are not together. Shift only lets you put things that are all together. So now that I've got them all selected, heading 2, why have I never thought to do that? Holy moly. Oh, this one, I missed one. Now, will that work in the scenario? Who knows? Probably not, because the programmers that made those scenarios didn't think far enough ahead. So they didn't think of all the things people might try. I'm a programmer. I'm allowed to say that we don't always think of everything. So there are definitely problems and limitations in the training, in the simulation sometimes. The ones for access are the absolute worst. Worst. All right, so rule of thirds, depth of field, juxtaposition. These are all things that are subheadings to, where was it? Composition. So composition is a level 2, and then these, so I'm holding rule of thirds. Now I've got my finger on Control, and I'm selecting the ones that come under the composition. So becoming object, shooting from below. Are these part of that? Yes. If not, I'll have to, we'll change it. Okay, shooting from above. There we go. Those ones I'm selecting so that I can turn them to heading 3. Okay. So make sure you've got everything labeled the way you want. This one, common photography mistakes, that's a heading, right? That's a heading. And these are the common photography mistakes. So again, I'm holding Control. You could do them one at a time, but this works so well. I can't believe I've never thought to do it. All right, so those become heading 3. And now we have a whole bunch of tips here where kids are involved, use action modes. These are all tips. Okay. So we can start there where kids are involved, and we can, for now at least, use our bullets again. Or I might actually change my bullets. You don't have to, but I think I'm going to. And I'm going to look for something a little more Christmassy. These things kind of look like snowflakes. That would do. Be creative. Find something you like. I'm going to try webdings. Webdings have very complicated, some of them. I'm not seeing anything Christmassy here. We've got a whole world, though. Rockets, points, joysticks, locks that are locked or not locked. Books. I like the books. Lots of stuff. So pick something you like. Don't pick the same as me. Because if you all pick the same things, then I'm going to be bored when I'm looking at them. All right, I'm still looking for something I like for Christmas. See, this'll do for now. I'm not going to spend all day on it, but I'll have snowflakes. Sort of. Part of the reason that we do the headings, there's several reasons we do them. So it doesn't say here, but later it will tell us that if we wanted to, we could make a table of contents. So if you put your cursor up at the beginning of if, after courtesy of Philips Studio L Photography, if you go to references and table of contents, and just pick the first one. What we have here now is a list of a table of contents, of course, everything that's in there, but also we have links. So if you click on the link, hold Control and click on the link, you go to that part of the document. So that's like stuff we'll do next semester, but that's part of the reason that we apply fonts or apply styles. Another reason for applying styles is we can say, okay, well, we don't want this light blue blah blah. I want to make it much bolder so it stands out much better. So I'm going to find a more a bolder font. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And I'm going to consider at least changing the font color. So I'm going to go with green. You can go with whichever you like, right? The nice thing about this is because I have the styles applied all the way through, I can say, okay, I want all of my heading 1 styles. So I go here, or all of my heading 2 styles, because that was heading 2. Ugh, there we go. And I can update heading 2 to match the selection. Okay, everybody got that? And it will change all the heading 2 styles. So if I decide that I don't want to use green, I want to use purple or blue or pink or magenta or orange or any other color, all I have to do is change it once. Let's go with purple. And then go back to styles and tell it to update heading 2 to match the selection. Okay. So what I would like you to do is to change your heading 2 style and your heading 3 style to something that you like. Don't make it purple necessarily. Make it something different than the main, but it should be something that works for you. So I'm going to use the same font because I don't like to use more than a couple fonts in any one document. I don't know if I want it that dark. Let's see if there's... same font, but I'm going to use medium weight. And more color. Oh, gradient. I might use gradients. But I need to start with the purple. And then my gradients. Oh, I like. Then my gradient choices are based off of whatever I have, right? And that will do. And then I'm updating my style to match the selection. Uh-oh. How many pages is your document? Mine's gone to 5 now. I don't like that. Clearly, I don't want just 3 lines or 3 last paragraphs on page 5 because that pushes me into a whole nother piece of paper if I were to print it. So that won't do. I'll have to keep in mind that I have to fix that a little bit. How are we doing? Anybody? Are you playing with your document? Are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. Are you playing with your document?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. I'm going to give you a few minutes. Bring it up to where you want for right now. And then we'll do a bit more. You don't have to leave the table of contents there if you don't want it. I'm kind of curious right now if I can put that in a text box. So I'm going to experiment while you guys have time to catch up your document or whatever. Change some styles. And I'm going to see if a table of contents can go into a text box. Well, actually, that isn't bad. Let's see. I like it.
Ours doesn't show the text box in ours.
Nope, yours won't show unless you put a text box, but yours doesn't have to be the same as mine. What we're doing is playing, right? So if you want a text box, you can put one in. You know how to do that by insert text box, right? I used banded sidebar, but there's lots of other ones that you can use. I'm kind of curious about what ViewMaster sidebar is. That's kind of weird. I don't like the way my camera body is showing up as one there, so I'm changing it. It should be heading style 2, just like this one is heading style 2. They all are, so why, oh why? Let's see. That's better. One of the other things that you learned in this section, I think, or covered in this section, is using, let me make sure, but yeah, you used columns, right? So we don't have to do columns the same way that they did columns, but let's put some columns somewhere. So let's find a section that we can put into columns. Let's go, I'm going to go with these problems. Dark photos, common photography mistakes. Okay, I'm not going to include the top part. I'm just including the mistakes that often happen. So the area that I select is the area that's going to be in columns, right? So now I'm looking for my columns, and I'm going to try 2, but I'm going to go down here, and let's see, 2 columns. I don't want so much room in between, so I'm going to go with less spacing, but I'm going to put a line between. And there's no reason to have one wider than the other because it's all the same topics. So I'm just going to hit OK and make those evenly split. Now, of course, I don't want it to go off one page to the next. So I'm going to insert, oops, I was right on the right page there, breaks, a page break there. And of course, I'm going to, at some point, want to fill in this space or change that. So I'm not going to have a whole big clump. But for now, this is fine. Because I know that I'm still going to mess around a little bit. So we've got columns. We've got a shape. We've got bullets. What else did you learn in this chapter that we might not have yet? You've modified styles. Oh yeah, pictures. We need some pictures. Now, they used pictures that it gave us with kayaks and stuff. You can use those pictures. They're still in your folder if you would like. Or you can choose some other kind of pictures, whatever you like. Okay, but we need to put at least 2 or 3 pictures in there, and we have to use text wrapping. That's the most important thing, because when you're working with pictures, it's really frustrating if you don't remember how to use text wrapping, because text wrapping is what lets us move the pictures around nicely. It lets us excuse me, it lets us scoot them around. It lets us have the text move around the pictures. So I'm going to, okay, this one, instead of taking a photo of a golfer making a putt, take a picture looking down at the golf club through hands. So I'm going to insert picture, and I'm going to find something to do with golf. And I'm just going to look and see if I can find something like what they're talking about. I think this will do, because I don't want something huge. I'm going to apply text wrapping, because once we have text wrapping, the text, oh, that's no good. I need to keep it in proportion. So I'm holding shift while I work from the corner. I'm going to make it quite a bit smaller. Where did the golf part go? Here. Now, rather than, oops, I'm getting out of perspective again. Rather than just making it smaller, depending on the picture, I could also choose to, crop part of it. So if I didn't need the sky or all of the grass or whatever, I would cut that out, because I know how to crop. I also know how to use styles on my pictures. So I can change the frame. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you're using pictures and you're using styles or picture styles or whatever, you don't want to end up with like 50 different kinds of pictures. Or so, for example, we wouldn't have a actual picture of golf or a field like this, and then have another one where it's a cartoon. Unless we're talking about this is a cartoon and this is a photograph. But in this article, there would be really no reason that we would ever use a cartoon, pretty much, because we're talking about photography, right? We wouldn't want to have it be full of clip art when we're talking about photography. Now, if I don't like my picture here, I can move it here or here, wherever I want to put it. I'm going to put it here, back over here. You can choose whatever picture you like, but make sure that you have 2 or 3 pictures in your document. These are awful colors. Okay, that was fun. So what I would like you to do is to play with your document a little bit more. Lay it out one way or another so that it's only 4 pages. 4 pages, and it's a newsletter, so the breaks have to make sense. You can't have great big gaps one place and not the next. This is a terrible frame for this picture. I've got to change it. But you're going to have a couple pictures in it. You're going to have breaks that make sense. You're going to remember to check the spelling because that's very, very important. You would not hand it in without having done the spell check. Does everybody remember how? If you go to review, spelling and grammar, it will tell you where most, but not necessarily all, of the typos are. What level it's written for. Okay.
Hello, ma'am. You are not audible. Hello, ma'am.
We cannot hear your audio.
there was a message that came up that said WebEx was using my microphone. So I killed WebEx. Maybe that'll fix it. That would be good. All right, I'm going to, you can hear me now, right? I'm going to stop recording because you guys are going to work for a little while.